Here in Mission Control, Entry Flight Director Leroy Kane's receiving a weather update from meteorologists with the Spaceflight Meteorology Group here in Mission Control as they continue to monitor conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. Coming up for Discovery in preparation for potential landing at the first opportunity to land at Kennedy Space Center this morning. Closing of the payload bay doors would occur in about 10 minutes or so for the shuttle. Again, that to enable Discovery to land at the first of two opportunities available to the Kennedy Space Center this morning. That would be a landing that would begin with the engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time, leading to touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. Mission Control is currently evaluating whether or not to provide a go to the crew to proceed with closing of the payload bay doors in anticipation of a potential landing at that first opportunity. Again, closing of the doors would occur in about 10 minutes or so if the crew is given a go.
Houston, Block 7 is complete.
Thank you.
This television on live view of Australia as seen from cameras aboard the International Space Station. The station's course will take it southeast, paralleling the coast of Australia, paralleling the east coast of Australia above the Great Barrier Reef. Flight Director Leroy Kane's now polling Mission Control for a go or no-go decision on closing of the payload bay doors aboard Discovery.
Red bypass is complete and nominal.
Okay, Discovery, we concur, and with that we can give you a go for payload bay door closing. And if you'd like, I can offer you the big picture as best we know it.
We are go for payload bay door closing, and we're ready for the big picture.
Okay, Eileen, once again, the word of the evening for weather at the Cape is instability. Right now we're watching some cells popping up within the 30-mile circle over the water, probably in the vicinity of 20 to 25 miles off the coast. And Ronald's reporting that they're building up fairly high, up into the 30s, and they do have some electrical activity associated with them. So we're watching all that. Our optimism isn't quite as high as it was earlier. Obviously, we're going to ask you to keep going along the timeline, and we're going to look real hard at the decision for fluid loading with respect to this rev. because we understand the situation we're in for you and the whole day ahead of you. How copy?
Discovery copies all that. Thanks for the update, and we'll be ready for whatever decision we make.
Great. We appreciate that.
This is Mission Control Houston. That call giving Discovery a go to begin closing the payload bay doors. That in preparation for a landing that could occur on the first opportunity to land at the Kennedy Space Center today. That would be an engine firing by Discovery at 3:01 a.m. Central Time, leading to touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. Closing the payload bay doors on board keeps Discovery on a schedule that maintains that as a potential landing. Several other go, no-go decision points will be upcoming as preparations continue toward that potential first opportunity for a descent. Currently, forecasters are monitoring showers developing offshore from the Kennedy Space Center, some large showers with lightning above the Gulf Stream, staying clear of the landing site but still within 30 nautical miles of the shuttle runway at the Kennedy Space Center. Those continuing to be in the forecast as well for the morning as it progresses. Among go, no-go decision points for Discovery as preparations continue on board toward a potential descent beginning again with an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time is about an hour before that engine firing when the crew would begin drinking fluids that assist with their readaptation to Earth's gravity. That's a common preparation for crews as they plan to return to Earth. Fluids are lost as shortly after astronauts arrive in weightlessness is one of the methods the body uses to adapt to weightlessness. By restoring those fluids and drinking fluids before their descent back to Earth, it assists with readaptation of the body to Earth's gravity. A go, no-go decision is made by Mission Control as to whether the crew should begin drinking those fluids in preparation for a descent. That, again, is a decision made about an hour or so before the planned engine firing to begin a shuttle descent, so that would be around 2 a.m. Central Time this morning that that go, no-go decision would be made by Mission Control. Again, however, all activities on board Discovery remain on schedule for a potential landing at the first opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center tonight, that one beginning with an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. The crew given a go just a few minutes ago to begin activities to close the payload bay doors on board and continue their preparations toward landing. Closing of the payload bay doors currently underway aboard Discovery. The spacecraft just having moved into sunset above the southern Pacific Ocean. Mechanical Systems Officer reports the payload bay doors of Discovery are now closed and latched, all that going normally. The next go-no-go decision for Discovery will be a go or no-go to proceed with transitioning the onboard flight control computers for the shuttle to the software that's used for deorbit entry and landing. That's a software package called OPS3. That decision point coming up in just about 10 minutes or so.
Houston Discovery, the payload bay doors are successfully closed. If you're ready, we'll initiate the maneuver.
We concur with the successful closing of the doors, and you are go to maneuver.
Copy, and Block 10 is in work.
Thanks.
That call, Discovery is now maneuvering to an orientation that optimizes communications between the shuttle and mission control for the final hours of preparations for the shuttle's deorbit.
Discovery Houston, we can offer you a go for the OPS3 transition, which will take you down into Block 12. And we have the same deltas for Block 12 that we had yesterday regarding Step 4, TIFLs, and the 8 through 10 steps.
And we still have those from yesterday. If you're happy with that, it'll be a few moments here, and we'll pick up with Block 12 in probably about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, that sounds great.
That call to Discovery from spacecraft communicator astronaut Ken Ham, giving pilot Jim Kelly a go to begin transitioning the onboard flight control computers to the software that's used for deorbit entry and landing, as all activities on board continue on schedule to maintain potential landing by Discovery at the first of 2 opportunities available to the Kennedy Space Center today. That first opportunity would begin with the engine firing by the shuttle at 3:01 a.m. Central, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 4:07 a.m. Central. The overview relayed to the crew a few minutes earlier as the payload bay doors, as a go was given for closing of the payload bay doors of the shuttle, was that the current forecast at the Kennedy Space Center continues to see a chance of showers developing offshore. Currently, observations show showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center, those being monitored closely by real-time observations from the site, as well as forecasters here in Mission Control watching those, lessening some the optimism for good conditions for landing, although again all of that being refined and monitored as the morning progresses. The plan is that the crew will continue preparations on schedule to maintain the potential for a landing at Kennedy on that first opportunity. About an hour before the engine firing would take place, around 2 a.m. Central Time, will be a very closely monitored decision point in Mission Control. That's when the crew would be given a go to begin drinking large quantities of fluids as part of the preparations to ease their readaptation to Earth's gravity. That go or no-go decision point to tell the crew to proceed with that occurs again about an hour before the engine firing that begins Discovery's descent. That would be around, that go or no-go decision will be made around 2 a.m. Central Time. That is a point when the weather will be looked at very, very closely to ascertain whether or not the crew should be told to proceed with that activity in anticipation of landing at Kennedy on the first opportunity, or to wait and refocus potentially toward the second opportunity for landing at Kennedy this morning. The second opportunity for landing at Kennedy would begin with an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. This is Mission Control Houston. Discovery is 204 miles above the Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of Chile. On board, the payload bay doors are closed, that occurring on schedule at about 12:20 a.m. Central Time. The crew's been given a go to continue ahead with the next major step in their preparations for the trip home, transitioning the onboard flight control computers to the software that's used for deorbit entry and landing. That's a package called OPS-3. All of that proceeding ahead on schedule to maintain the potential for a landing by Discovery at the first of two opportunities available to the Kennedy Space Center this morning. That first opportunity, one that would begin with an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time by the shuttle, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. Flight controllers here continue to watch closely as showers develop offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. The current weather forecast continues to include that chance of showers through the morning. Earlier today, astronaut Kent Rominger flew weather reconnaissance, looking at those conditions and others in a T-38 aircraft. He'll resume flights in a shuttle training aircraft in about another 45 minutes or so, reporting his observations back in real time to Mission Control. The overall plan for approaching the morning that was relayed up to the crew at the time they were given a go for closing of the payload bay doors was that likely they will be given goes to continue their preparations toward a potential deorbit at the first opportunity to Florida up until about an hour before that engine firing, at which point the weather will be monitored very closely. That would be the point where the crew would begin drinking large quantities of fluids as part of their preparations for a readaptation to Earth's gravity. That would be around 2 a.m. Central Time. Whether or not go will be given for them to perform that activity, again, based on weather concerns, will be evaluated at that point. If not, then the crew would recycle efforts toward the second opportunity for landing at the Kennedy Space Center today. That would be an engine firing beginning at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central Time in Florida. If that opportunity was not possible due to weather concerns, then efforts would be refocused toward the first opportunity for landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California, that beginning with an engine firing at 6:06 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown at 7:12 a.m. Central Time. The weather forecast at Edwards Air Force Base for today shows excellent conditions for a shuttle landing. No concerns whatsoever in the forecast. 2 cloud decks, 1 scattered deck, and 2 scattered cloud decks rather, and no chance of showers in the vicinity of Edwards Air Force Base. Again, all forecast to be acceptable conditions at Edwards for landing if that is needed for Discovery today. The preferred landing site for Discovery, however, is the Kennedy Space Center, and preparations on board continue on a schedule to maintain the potential for landing at the first of 2 opportunities available to Florida. That first opportunity would require an engine firing by Discovery at 3:01 a.m. Central Time to begin its descent.
Houston Discovery, I'd like to do Block 13 early if we can.
And Discovery, your go for Block 13.
Thanks, Hawk. Discovery 1 Block 12.
Copy, we're watching.
And if you like the NBET, we'll do the OPS 301. We're in step 5.
We like your NBET.
Houston Discovery, if you like the NBAT, we're in step 7. We'll do the OPS 301 Pro.
And Eileen, we like the NBAT.
Houston, step 8 is complete. We're jumping ahead to step 10.
Copy. And Discovery Houston, your targets are coming on board.
Roger. Houston, we see the targets on board. If you're ready, we'll load them.
And Eileen, you are go to load targets.
Roger.
Discovery Houston for Vegas. If you'd like, we can offer you the pads.
Stand by, we'll get them out and we'll take them. We're complete with Block 12.
We concur.
Houston, we have an update on the deorbit timeline.
Go ahead.
We've completed blocks 12 and 13. Block 3 is complete. Block 16 is complete. And the final switch verification in the mid-deck is complete.
Okay, we copy all.
Houston Discovery Hawk, we're ready for the pads. We're standing by the deorbit maneuver pad.
Okay, Vegas, it is ohms both, the TIG 13/17:21:32.0, TGO 2 minutes 43 seconds. Notes, none.
Houston Discovery, we copy ohms both, TIG 13/17:21:32.0, TGO 2:43.
Good copy. Over on the Del pad, under pre-deorbit, you are single APU start, attempt 2, sequence 2, then 3. Under deorbit, ohms TIG slip 4 minutes even. RCS downmoding is NA. Left and right ohms fail HP are 80. The crossfeed quantity cues, left 6, right 6. Engine fail HP 80. Safe HP 80. Aft quantity 1, 78. Aft quantity 2, 40. Flip HP 48. Aft HP 33. Backup site is NA, and the Q is fuel 0. How copy?
We copy pre-deorbit, single APU start, attempt 2 APU, start sequence 2, then 3. Deorbit ohms TIG slip of 4 minutes even, RCS downloading NA, left and right ohms fail, HPs 80. Engine fail, crossfeed quantity, Q, left and right 6%. Engine fail and safe HP 80. Total aft quantity 178, aft quantity 240. Flip HP 48, aft HP 33, backup side NA, and dump till fuel of 0.
That's a good copy. Under entry landing, the EI-5, roll 324, pitch 008, yaw 341. The pre-bank is left 0. Altimeter setting 30.00. Closed loop guidance in it 18:00:52. You can expect aileron trim of right 0.2. The VREL first reversal 20300. XCG at touchdown 1087.2. Landing site 1. Runway is KSC 15 for a left. Overhead 246 degrees on the hack. MLS channel 8. TACAN 59 Yankee. The Delta T Mach 1 to the hack is 0:45. Max NZ 1.4. NZ limit 2.3. For now, we're going to go nominal 15%. How copy?
Hawk for entry landing, we copy the EI-5 attitude, roll 324, pitch 008, yaw 341. Pre-bank left of 0, altimeter 30.00, closed loop guidance net 18:00:52, aileron trim right 0.2, VOR first reversal 20300, XCG 1087.2, landing site 1, KSC 15, left overhead 246 degrees, channel 8 on the MLS, 59 Yankee on the TACAN, 0:45 for less than Mach 1 to the hack, max NZ 1.4, NZ limit 2.3, nominal 15%.
Good copy. Winds to follow, and again, they're very light all the way down. 50K, 150 at 15, 180 at 10, 220 at 5, 250 at 10, 230 at 15, 210 at 10, 220 at 15, 200 at 10, and at the surface right now it's 190 at 5, peak 7. Under remarks, your hacking it to 20K is 1 minute 17 seconds. And again, we're circling flip and forward RCS completion. How copy?
And Hawk, we copy all the winds, light all the way down with 1905, peak 7 on the surface. And we'll circle flip and FRCS in 4 places on the card and understand 1:17. Delta T hacking it to 20K. Our plan remains the same as yesterday. Power flying first.
Copy all. We appreciate that. And lastly, Vegas, we can give you the deorbit burn flight rules, 1 orbit late available. The deltas are exactly the same as yesterday. It's tanks 4 and 5 and delete 12 and 16.
We copy. We're still on the 1 orbit late available side. Step 8 is 4 and 5 and 12 and 16 deleted.
Good copy.
This is Mission Control Houston as Discovery flies 206 miles above Europe.
Hawk, we're going to put the blocks 14, 15, and the final entry switch list verifications in work.
Copy.
Astronaut Ken Ham, Capcom here in Mission Control, passing along preliminary advisory data about the deorbit entry and landing for Discovery on the first of 2 opportunities available to land at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. That beginning with an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time. For that engine firing, Discovery would fire both of its orbital maneuvering system engines for about 2 minutes and 43 seconds. The result would be a decrease in speed for Discovery of only about 185 miles per hour, but put Discovery on a course to descend and encounter the effects of Earth's atmosphere for the first time above the southern Pacific Ocean, south of Pitcairn Island. That would occur at about 3:35 a.m. Central Time, point known as entry interface. Discovery at that point would have its nose angled up 40 degrees, wings level, to control heating on the spacecraft. It would descend into the atmosphere for the first 5 minutes in that orientation, and then begin the first of a series of 4 banks it will perform as it approaches the Kennedy Space Center to dissipate speed. That first bank to the left with wings angled 74 degrees. During its approach to the Kennedy Space Center, Discovery would cross above extreme southern Mexico, then fly northeast over the Yucatan Peninsula, above Merida, Mexico, cross the Gulf of Mexico, and fly almost directly above Fort Myers, Florida, en route to the Kennedy Space Center. Currently, the preferred runway at the shuttle landing facility would be runway 15. Discovery would perform a left overhead 246-degree turn to align with the runway on its final approach.
Before you put your suit on, you may want to give us a call on the other side.
Woke up.
Preparations on board Discovery continue to maintain the potential for an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central Time to begin a descent on this first opportunity. However, flight controllers and weather forecasters here continue to monitor conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. Again, weather forecasters here in Mission Control monitoring closely conditions at the Kennedy Space Center, in particular rain showers currently within 30 nautical miles of the landing site. That part of the forecast to have those showers continue, those potential concern for entry and landing by Discovery. But preparations on board the vehicle continuing to maintain that option for an entry and landing at the first of two opportunities available to the Kennedy Space Center. If that is not taken, a second opportunity exists. That would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. At the Kennedy Space Center, preparing to take off in the next 10 minutes or so, is astronaut Kent Rominger, who's flying weather reconnaissance this morning. He's already flown in a T-38 aircraft earlier in the morning. He's prepared to take off in a shuttle training aircraft to continue those reconnaissance flights and reporting of weather conditions back to Mission Control in real time. Aboard Discovery, the crew continuing through their switch lists, verifying the position of all switches in the cockpit and mid-deck of Discovery to ensure they're in the proper configuration for entry and landing. Also, soon all crew members would begin donning their launch and entry suits, the partial pressure suits that are worn during shuttle launches and landings. Again, to recap events of the morning so far, Discovery's payload bay doors were closed on time at about 12:20 a.m. Central Time. All activities on board the shuttle have proceeded toward a schedule to maintain the potential for a landing at the Kennedy Space Center at the first of two opportunities available today. That an opportunity that would begin at 3 with an engine firing by the shuttle at 3:01 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 4:07 a.m. Central. Flight controllers continue to evaluate closely, however, potential weather concerns at the Kennedy Space Center, specifically a chance of showers in the vicinity of the landing site. Showers currently seen within 30 nautical miles of the landing site, according to radar from Florida. Those are forecast to continue through the morning. If the first opportunity to land at the Kennedy Space Center is not pursued, a second opportunity exists. That would begin with an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central.
Discovery Houston with a weather update.
And Hawk, stand by one on that, but while you're there, we have everything complete on page 1-15 with the exception of block 18, which will be in work shortly. Okay, thanks for the update. And we're ready to take the weather updates. Okay, I don't know whether you say our pessimism is increasing or our optimism is decreasing, but right now the official forecast for the first opportunity is to have rain showers within 30. We've removed the slight chance and the chance. We're also watching an anvil associated with one of the storms that's close to the 30-mile edge. So it's not looking great for the first opportunity. We did just release Rommel to take off and go take a look at the weather in the area to help us out in characterizing what the trends are. Having said that, and I can see you chuckling already, would like you to continue with the timeline for now, and we're going to take you down to at least the TIG minus 1 hour section where the fluid loading is called out before we make an official call on this landing opportunity. And we see on Wendy's deorbit flight or deorbit prep plan, you got a bunch of crew members that are suiting up in that time frame, so use your judgment there. How copy?
We copy, Houston.
This is Mission Control Houston as that last communications to Discovery from...
Houston, block 18 is complete.
Thank you.
Astronaut Ken Ham, spacecraft communicator here in Mission Control, indicated the current plan is to maintain preparations on board the spacecraft on schedule toward a potential landing at the Kennedy Space Center at the first of two opportunities available today. That would require an engine firing by Discovery at 3:01 a.m. Central Time. Currently, Discovery's payload bay doors are closed. All activities proceeding as normal toward a potential engine firing at that point on the first opportunity. That activity will continue likely until at least 1 hour before that opportunity would be coming up, so about 2 a.m. Central Time, at which point flight controllers and weather forecasters will take another detailed look at the weather forecast and conditions at the Kennedy Space Center to decide whether or not to provide a go or no-go to the crew to continue their preparations. From then on, at that point, the crew would begin drinking quantities of fluid in preparation for landing, that to assist their readaptation to Earth's gravity after their extended stay in space. One of the first effects of adaptation to weightlessness on the body is to shed fluids. Restoring those fluids and drinking them before landing assists crew members in their readaptation to Earth's gravity upon their return. Again, they're normally scheduled to begin drinking that about an hour before landing, drinking fluids, that may be delayed if indeed weather does not look favorable for a landing at Kennedy at the first opportunity, and efforts need to be recycled to the second opportunity. The second opportunity would require an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time on the next orbit of Earth, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. The weather forecast for Kennedy includes a chance of showers, as has been the case throughout the morning. Also, showers have been monitored throughout the morning offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Some of those fairly large showers, those of concern and closely watched by flight controllers. Again, forecasts and observations will be refined as the next half hour proceeds. Also, in flight at the Kennedy Space Center now is astronaut Kent Rominger in a shuttle training aircraft, flying weather reconnaissance and reporting real-time observations back to mission control of conditions there. All systems aboard Discovery are in excellent shape and no problems with any activities on board the spacecraft throughout the morning. All the preparations for the return to Earth have gone very smoothly for the crew. The only issue that is being monitored closely is weather, the weather forecast and conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. The forecast for weather at Edwards Air Force Base, second in preference as a landing site for Discovery, is for acceptable conditions, no problems in the forecast whatsoever for a shuttle landing there today. The first opportunity for landing at Edwards Air Force Base would be with an engine firing by Discovery at 6:06 a.m. Central, leading to a touchdown in California at 7:12 a.m. Central Time. This is live television from a camera aboard the International Space Station. Station currently above Southeast Asia, trailing Discovery by over 1,500 statute miles. Discovery moving 140 miles further ahead of the station with each hour-and-a-half long orbit of Earth. Aboard the station, Commander Sergei Krikalev and Flight Engineer NASA Science Officer John Phillips are awake. Beginning their day, they awakened about 1 a.m. Central Time. Station crew was sent information to afford them an opportunity to take a look at Discovery as it descends into the atmosphere. Actually, because of the relative distance between the station and the shuttle would not be directly visible to the station crew as it descends into the atmosphere. It would be too far away. However, the station crew was sent instructions that they may have the opportunity to see the plasma trail from Discovery's re-entry, although Discovery itself would have already passed and not be visible. That possibility for seeing a plasma trail from Discovery was present for the station crew for all the opportunities Discovery has for landing at the Kennedy Space Center or at the Edwards Air Force Base as well. Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Leroy Kane and weather forecasters continue to monitor showers developing offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Those showers have been present throughout the morning and late Monday evening. They're present in the forecast as well for landing time for the first opportunity for Discovery. Those of primary issue with the weather for landing at this point, again being monitored. Reports on conditions at the Kennedy Space Center also being relayed back to Mission Control from astronaut Kent Rominger, who's flying weather reconnaissance in a shuttle training aircraft at the landing site. The current plan ahead is for the crew aboard Discovery to continue their preparations toward a potential landing on the first opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center for at least another half hour or so at about 2 a.m. Central Time, about an hour before Discovery would have to fire its engines to begin its descent for that first landing. Discussion or decision rather for a go no-go for the crew to begin drinking fluids in quantity as one of the steps they perform in preparation for the readaptation to gravity. A decision on whether to tell the crew to proceed with that or not will have to be made. That's been relayed to the crew as a decision point for the first opportunity to look closely at the weather here for Mission Control and decide whether or not to proceed from that point on. So again, that next major decision point expected around 2 a.m. Central Time as to whether or not Discovery will proceed toward a potential landing at Kennedy Space Center at the first of the opportunities available today. That an opportunity that would result in a touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. This television view of Australia from an altitude of 220 miles, seen by television cameras aboard the International Space Station. Actually, the islands of Indonesia. The station's course will soon take it across Central Australia. This is Mission Control Houston. This is a live television view of the northern Australian coast from an altitude of 220 miles. The International Space Station passing above at present, about a little over 1,500 statute miles ahead of the station. Aboard Discovery, the crew continuing preparations to maintain the option of a descent to Florida on the first of two opportunities for a landing at the Kennedy Space Center today for Discovery. That would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 3:01 a.m. Central, leading to touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central in Florida. Current plan as relayed up to the crew through the morning is to continue preparations and maintain that option at least up until about 2 a.m. Central Time, at which point the crew would have to begin drinking quantities of fluid as one of the measures taken to assist the readaptation to Earth's gravity. Fluid is lost as the body adapts to weightlessness early on in a space flight. By drinking quantities of fluid before landing, it assists crew members with their readaptation to gravity. But however, that's not desired if efforts are going to be refocused toward the second opportunity at the Kennedy Space Center today. So again, the current upcoming decision point for whether or not the crew and Mission Control would proceed toward a landing opportunity at the first chance available today to the Kennedy Space Center is coming up at about 2 a.m. Central Time. As weather conditions at Kennedy continue to be monitored, specifically showers developing offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's second opportunity for a landing at the Kennedy Space Center today would begin with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central. However, all activities continue to proceed ahead toward a potential landing on the first of opportunities available to Kennedy for Discovery today, that beginning with an engine firing at 3:01 a.m. Central and a touchdown at 4:07 a.m.
we're starting block 22.
Copy, you go for that.
Roger. Houston, block 21 and 22 are complete.
Copy, thanks Eileen. And we'll probably call you back in 5 minutes with the big picture for this rev.
Roger that.
This is Mission Control Houston. This live television of sunset in orbit seen from the International Space Station. The station currently above the Southern Ocean to the south of Australia. Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Leroy Kane getting a weather briefing. The latest updates on weather forecasts for the Kennedy Space Center for a potential landing by Discovery at the first of two opportunities available this morning. That in preparation for a decision on whether or not the crew aboard Discovery should proceed with their preparations toward that potential landing. That would be toward an engine firing that would take place at 3:01 a.m. Central Time and lead to a touchdown at 4:07 a.m. Central Time. Throughout the morning, weather forecasters have been closely monitoring showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center within 30 nautical miles of the landing site. That continuing to be an element in the forecast as well for a potential landing by Discovery.
Discovery Houston with the plan.
We're ready.
Eileen, at this time, we're going to ask you guys to watch the Earth go by for one more rev, and we're going to officially wave off of this attempt. Our current obs at the Cape is, I'll just give you the part that's important. We have rain showers and thunderstorms within 30 and an electrified anvil, and we don't see any way that we're going to be able to clear that within the time before touchdown. And we're holding some hope for the second opportunity at the Cape. The official forecast for that is a slight chance of rain showers within 30. I know we've told you that a few times in the last couple days. All we can do is watch it and hope that it gets more stable. So with that, regarding your FDF, we're just going to sit tight right here in the deorbit prep checklist with no activities and pick up again at the IMU align where you are right now. That will be set with respect to a TIG of 18:58:27. How copy?
We copy all that, Houston, and we understand how unstable the weather is in Florida, so we're not surprised at all. And I've been in your shoes many times, so I understand how it goes. So we understand we'll be going one more rev around. Our new TIG is 18:58:27, and when we get back on the next rev, we'll pick up at the IMU to IMU line.
Okay, your understanding is correct, and we do appreciate your patience and good humor with the situation. And to make you feel comfortable and confident, Edwards' current obs is Cavu, and the forecast is to stay that way. The wind is right down the runway for runway 22.
Okay, that's good news. Thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. That call from spacecraft communicator astronaut Ken Ham, Capcom and Mission Control to Commander Eileen Collins aboard Discovery, waving the crew off of the first of two opportunities for landing at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. The crew told basically to just hold at the point they're at in their preparations for return and circle the Earth one more time for an hour and a half before a decision is made whether to refocus and begin efforts toward the second opportunity at the Kennedy Space Center. The weather forecast for Kennedy continues to include a chance of showers. Rain showers offshore within 30 nautical miles of the landing site have been subject of a close watch throughout the morning and late evening of Monday. There is some cause for optimism that the showers will move further offshore and may clear the forecast for the second opportunity for landing at the Kennedy Space Center. So again, the crew holding where they are at about 1 hour of preparations away from an engine firing to begin their descent. They'll hold at that point in their preparations on board and refocus toward this second opportunity to land at the Kennedy Space Center. Second opportunity for a landing at Kennedy today would begin with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and result in a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. Again, closely monitored as the morning progresses. Will be showers in the vicinity offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. That the topic of concern with the weather for landing and the weather condition that resulted in the wave off of this first opportunity for landing by Discovery. Also noted weather forecast at Edwards and current weather conditions at Edwards. The latest observation of weather conditions there show clear skies and light winds of 7 knots straight down the runway there of runway 22. So very acceptable conditions for a shuttle landing there if required. That first opportunity for a landing for Edwards for Discovery today would begin with an engine firing at 6:06 a.m. Central Time and result in a touchdown in California at 7:12 a.m. Central Time. But again, at this point, efforts being refocused toward the second opportunity for landing by Discovery today at the Kennedy Space Center. That with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central, leading to a touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. For that second opportunity, Discovery would fire its engines while it's above the central Indian Ocean, firing both orbital maneuvering system engines for about 2 minutes and 43 seconds, slowing the spacecraft and putting it in a fall toward an encounter with Earth's atmosphere that would occur above the islands of French Polynesia in the South Pacific at a distance of about 5,000 statute miles from the Kennedy Space Center and an altitude of about 75 miles. That entry interface, the first encounter with the atmosphere for Discovery, would occur about 5:10 a.m. Central Time. As Discovery descended into the atmosphere, it will perform 4 banks to dissipate speed as it approaches Kennedy. Its approach toward Kennedy on the second opportunity would take it across northern Mexico. It would cross the Mexico coast, the Pacific coast of Mexico above Puerto Vallarta, then continue across northern Mexico, going almost directly above Brownsville, Texas, and then traveling above the Gulf of Mexico offshore from the U.S. Gulf Coast, and would be visible in its descent to residents along the Gulf Coast of the United States throughout its path toward Florida. It would cross the Florida coast to the north of Tampa and traverse almost directly above Orlando en route to a landing at the Kennedy Space Center. Again, this for the current opportunity now that is the focus of attention aboard Discovery and here in Mission Control, the second opportunity for landing at Kennedy this morning, that beginning with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. The visibility for Discovery on this second opportunity, if it is indeed taken as a descent, would occur about 5:25 a.m. Central Time through about 5:30 a.m. Central Time for residents along the Gulf Coast of the United States. For residents in the Houston area, Discovery's path would be at a maximum elevation of about 10 degrees above the horizon as it headed toward Florida. This is a live view from the Kennedy Space Center Shuttle landing facility runway. Returning to the runway is astronaut Kent Rominger in the shuttle training aircraft. He'll be landing and refueling in preparation for continued weather reconnaissance flights, looking now at scouting weather for the second landing opportunity for Discovery. That, again, opportunity that would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 4:37 a.m. Central to touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. This is Mission Control Houston. This is a live television picture from the Kennedy Space Center shuttle runway. The shuttle training aircraft flown by astronaut Kent Rominger, Chief of the Astronaut Office, returning to the landing site for refueling. Once refueled, Rominger will again take off to fly additional weather reconnaissance, scouting weather for the second opportunity for Discovery to land in Florida available today. That opportunity would begin with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and lead to a touchdown by the shuttle in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. Aboard Discovery, the crew basically holding in their preparations for entry and landing for about the next hour and a half before they would resume again toward that second opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center. During that time, flight controllers here and weather forecasters will continue to monitor rain showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Those within 30 nautical miles of the landing site, also lightning in some of those rain showers. And continue again to receive reports from Rominger once he is airborne again on weather conditions in real time around the landing site. Those showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center and thunderstorms as well as lightning in those storms, all reasons behind the wave off of Discovery from the first opportunity to land in Florida today. That wave off officially called up to the crew about 2 a.m. Central Time. Again, refocusing all efforts toward the second opportunity now. If Discovery does not proceed toward a landing at the Kennedy Space Center on this second opportunity, then efforts would be focused toward the first opportunity for landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California. That would begin with an engine firing at 6:06 a.m. Central Time by Discovery and result in a touchdown in California at 7:12 a.m. Central Time. Latest observed weather conditions at Edwards Air Force Base showed clear skies and light winds of 7 knots. Very acceptable conditions for a shuttle landing there if needed. This is Mission Control Houston aboard Discovery. The crew basically holding in their preparations for a descent from orbit at this point as efforts in Mission Control are refocused toward the second opportunity for a landing by Discovery in Florida today. That's an opportunity that would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 4:37 a.m. Central, leading to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. Of concern through the morning have been showers developing offshore from the Kennedy Space Center within 30 nautical miles of the landing site. There is optimism that those may move out of the vicinity of the landing site for the second opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center. Again, weather forecasters here continuing to monitor conditions in Florida closely. Also, in about another 25 minutes or so, astronaut Kent Rominger will again take off in the shuttle training aircraft from the Kennedy Space Center runway to fly weather reconnaissance and report to real-time back to Mission Control on conditions near the landing site. The crew's preparations for a return to Earth have gone very smoothly throughout the morning. No problems of any type seen on board Discovery. All systems in excellent shape. The crews paused at the point in their preparations where they would take their seats and begin strapping in for the upcoming engine firing that would begin their descent. That step about an hour away from when an engine firing would take place, so they would resume those preparations again to set up for an engine firing and descent on the second opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center. They would resume those operations at about 3:35 a.m. Central Time. The Kennedy Space Center is the preferred landing site for Discovery. This next opportunity is the final opportunity for a landing by Discovery in Florida today. If weather prevents that from occurring, then efforts will be refocused toward a landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California, the first of two opportunities to land there today that are available for Discovery. That opportunity beginning with an engine firing at 6:06 a.m. Central Time by Discovery and leading to a touchdown in California at 7:12 a.m. Central Time. Latest observed weather conditions in California showed clear skies at Edwards Air Force Base and light winds, 7-knot winds directly down runway 22, which is currently would be the anticipated runway for a landing by Discovery if that were to take place today.
Discovery Houston, for information, we're sending you new targets.
Thank you.
And I couldn't tell, but if that was Vegas answering me, I have updated pads for you as well.
Stand by, we'll get them out. Go ahead on the maneuver pad, hot.
Okay, your new TIG is 13/18:58:27.0. No change to TGO, and that's it.
We copy. The new TIG is 13/18:58:27.0.
Good copy. We're over on the Del pad under the deorbit section. The ohms TIG slip 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Down in the left corner, bottom, flip HP 46, aft HP 31. How copy?
Del pad, deorbit, ohms TIG slip 3:45, flip HP 46, aft HP 31.
Good copy. Under entry landing, EI -5, roll 322, pitch 353, yaw 351. Your pre-bank is now right 0. Closed loop guidance in it 19:36:24. VREL first reversal is 10:600. All the way down, Delta T Mach less than 1 to the hack is 0:23. And under remarks, hacking it to 20K, 1 minute, 41 seconds. How copy?
Houston Discovery, we copy in the entry landing section. The EI-5 attitude is roll 322, pitch 353, yaw 351, which is now a right pre-bank of 0 degrees. Closed loop guidance in it at 19:36:24. VRL first reversal at 10:6. We copy Mach 1 to the hack is 0:23, and from the hack to 20K is 1:41, and we will switch our plan to put pilot flying on the hack.
Okay, we copy pilot flying on the hack. That makes sense to us, and we have no changes to the deorbit burn flight rules 1 orbit late available card.
Copy that.
And Discovery Houston, your targets are on board. You have go to load. And additionally, Vegas, I missed one other delta, and that is the hack turn angle. It is 294 degrees.
Copy, 294 degrees. And we think it's still a left overhead, we're assuming, of 294 degrees.
That is correct.
Copy that, and we'll load the targets, and we will obviously not maneuver.
Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston aboard Discovery. The crew holding in their preparations for the trip back to Earth at present at about, with efforts now refocused toward the second opportunity for entry and landing to the Kennedy Space Center today. That would require an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and lead to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. The crew was told to wave off the first opportunity for a landing this morning at the Kennedy Space Center at about 2 a.m. Central, that due to rain showers in the vicinity of the landing site offshore within 30 nautical miles of the shuttle runway. Those showers continuing to be monitored now by weather forecasters here in Mission Control. Also airborne now at the Kennedy Space Center again is astronaut Kent Rominger, who's flying weather reconnaissance in the shuttle training aircraft and reporting back observations to Mission Control. The crew paused in their preparations at about the point where they would take their seats and begin strapping in for the trip home. Again, all efforts on board Discovery and here in Mission Control are now focused on the second opportunity and final opportunity for landing by Discovery in Florida today. That would begin with an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time, resulting in a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. For that, Discovery would fire its orbital maneuvering system engines for a total of 2 minutes and 43 seconds. That as the spacecraft was above the central Indian Ocean, beginning its descent toward Earth. It would free fall toward the atmosphere, first encountering effects of the atmosphere above the islands of French Polynesia in the South Pacific, about 5,000 statute miles from the landing site at the Kennedy Space Center. That first encounter with the atmosphere would occur about 5:11 a.m. Central Time. As it descended into the atmosphere, Discovery would be oriented with its nose angled up 40 degrees and wings level to control heating on the spacecraft. It would perform the first in a series of 4 banks. It performs as it descends through the atmosphere toward the landing site to dissipate speed. It would perform that first bank at about 5:15 a.m. Central Time. That would be a bank to the right with wings angled about 75 degrees to horizontal. It would reverse that bank about 15 minutes later in the second of the 4 banks it performs, that at about 5:30 a.m. Central Time. Its descent toward Florida would take it across northern Mexico. It would cross the Pacific coast of Mexico above Puerto Vallarta, and then proceed across northern Mexico almost directly above Brownsville, Texas, moving out across the Gulf of Mexico. It would travel offshore from the U.S. Gulf Coast toward Florida and actually be visible for residents of the U.S. Gulf Coast all along its path at a low elevation on the southern horizon. For Houston, that elevation is predicted to be a maximum of about 10 degrees above the horizon, beginning from about 5:25 a.m. Central Time and ending about 5:30 a.m. Central Time. Throughout the length of the Gulf Coast, it would be traveling across the Gulf from about 5:25 a.m. to 5:35 a.m. when it would cross above the Florida Peninsula, above north of Tampa, and then cross almost directly above Orlando en route to a landing at the Kennedy Space Center. The preferred runway is runway 15 at Kennedy, the southern end of the shuttle landing facility runway. It would perform a left overhead 294-degree turn to align with the runway as it approached. All systems on board Discovery continue in excellent shape. All preparations on board have gone very smoothly for the return to Earth today. The issue of concern that has been watched throughout the morning is weather at the Kennedy Space Center. Of concern, showers offshore from the landing site. Those showers have some optimism that forecasters have some optimism that those showers may move out of the vicinity of the landing site, and conditions may improve to allow a landing on the second opportunity. That forecast being refined as the morning progresses, and also being updated with real-time observations of weather conditions at Kennedy, supplied by astronaut Kent Rominger flying reconnaissance in a shuttle training aircraft at the landing site. The next decision point upcoming for Mission Control and for Discovery will be in about a half hour or so, when the crew will need a go or no-go decision, whether to press ahead with drinking quantities of liquids as a part of the preparations for their landing and readaptation to Earth's gravity. That's done on before every shuttle return. As the body adapts to weightlessness, one of the first things that occurs is shedding of fluids. By restoring those fluids and drinking quantities of fluids before the return home, it eases the readaptation of astronauts to Earth's gravity. So that is done about an hour before an engine firing to begin the descent of the shuttle. So that's upcoming in about 3:35 a.m. Central Time. Go or no go for the crew to begin that process of fluid loading, and then to take their seats and continue preparations toward a possible return to Earth to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, that beginning with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time. The final go or no-go decision to proceed ahead with an engine firing for that descent to Florida on the second opportunity would occur about 20 minutes ahead of when the firing is set. That about 4:10 a.m. Central Time this morning. This is Mission Control Houston. This is a live television picture from the International Space Station, currently above the Indian Ocean at an altitude of 220 miles. Discovery is currently well ahead of the station in orbit, more than 1,500 miles ahead of the complex, continuing to increase the distance between the two by about 140 miles with each hour-and-a-half long orbit of Earth. Aboard Discovery, the crew poised in their preparations for a return to Earth, holding at a point where they would begin ingressing their seats and drinking quantities of fluid to assist in their readaptation to gravity after they return to Earth. That awaiting a no-go decision by Mission Control to proceed with preparations further toward a potential landing at the Kennedy Space Center on the second opportunity available today. That opportunity would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 4:37 a.m. Central and result in a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. The next decision point upcoming again for preparations regarding that second opportunity to Kennedy would be in about 20 minutes or so at about 3:35 a.m. Central Time when that decision would be made to tell the crew to press ahead with preparations or not for that opportunity. Continuing to be watched closely here in Mission Control are showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Those have been present throughout the morning and are present currently in the forecast for a landing by Discovery on this second opportunity of the day today for Florida. This is Mission Control, Houston. This television view from the International Space Station as it moves into sunset above the Southern Ocean, below to the south of Australia. Aboard Discovery, the crew continuing paused in their preparations for a return to Earth today. That with payload bay doors closed for Discovery and all preparations made up to a point with the crew in their launch and entry suits already, up to a point where they would begin strapping into their seats and also begin drinking quantities of fluids as part of preparations for readaptation to Earth's gravity after landing. Flying weather reconnaissance at the Kennedy Space Center and reporting back his observations to Mission Control is astronaut Kent Rominger in the shuttle training aircraft. Closely watched by weather forecasters here and by Rominger are thunderstorms and showers offshore from the Kennedy Space Center. Those have been an element in the forecast for a possible landing by Discovery throughout the morning, but have remained offshore from Kennedy. The forecast and observations continue to be refined and updated. As the morning progresses. Entry Flight Director Leroy Kane has told the crew that he'll have a decision point in about 10 more minutes or so when the crew would need to begin drinking fluids and take their seats in preparation for a landing on the second opportunity to land at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. That decision point again about 3:35 a.m. Central Time, about an hour away from when Discovery would fire its engines to begin a descent to Florida for that second opportunity. That engine firing would occur at about 4:37 a.m. Central Time.
Houston Discover, if you're ready for the IMU to IMU line.
Yeah, we're ready.
This is Mission Control Houston. Flight Director Leroy Kane is conferring with weather forecasters here with the Spaceflight Meteorology Group in Mission Control, getting updates to the forecast for a potential landing by Discovery on the second opportunity available to the Kennedy Space Center. That an opportunity that would begin with an engine firing by the shuttle at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and lead to a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central. Kane's also getting updates from observations made by astronaut Kent Rominger, who's been flying weather reconnaissance at the Kennedy Space Center. Providing communications and receiving those reports from Rominger is weather Capcom Rick Sturko. Again, the primary weather issue of concern throughout the morning has been the potential for rain showers within 30 nautical miles of the Kennedy Space Center landing site. Those having been watched closely throughout the morning and late evening Monday.
Discovery Houston with a weather update.
Discovery's ready.
Okay, Eileen, the situation is similar to the first rev. However, it is slightly better in that the activity that's hugging the eastern edge of the 30-mile arc is drifting a little more to the northeast and staying a little farther away from the Cape. And that's encouraging to us. We think there's still hope for this opportunity. However, as the STA flies in that area out there, Rommel has actually seen a little bit of St. Elmo's fire. So we do have evidence of electrification in the high layers up there. Again, it does appear to be dissipating somewhat. The weather over the field is essentially clear. So we're not nearly as worried about mid-level or low-level cloud layers tonight. In general, it's a drier evening. So with that, we would like you to pick up with the fluid loading and the checklist and continue along, and hopefully we can get you to the Cape. How copy?
Okay, we will pick up with the fluid loading and continue with the checklist.
Good copy.
That call to Commander Eileen Collins aboard Discovery from spacecraft communicator astronaut Ken Ham here in Mission Control.
Eileen, one more item of interest for you. This particular touchdown on this attempt at the Cape would be at sunrise minus 5 minutes, if that'll help you form a mental picture of what you're looking at.
We very much appreciate those words. Thanks.
Again, that call.
And Houston, we were just curious up here what the temperature dew point spread is today.
73 right now.
And Eileen, right now it is 79, 73, and the forecast for touchdown is 76, 73. So that is an improvement from last night.
Roger that. Thank you.
And the crew of Discovery has been given a go to press ahead with their preparations for a potential landing at the Kennedy Space Center this morning on the second of 2 opportunities available for a landing there. That would begin with an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and result in a touchdown at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. The next decision point leading up to Discovery's potential descent to Florida would be at about 4:17 a.m., about 20 minutes or so ahead of the planned engine firing. That when a no-go decision is made by Mission Control, whether or not the crew should press ahead with that firing and descent to Florida. Again, to recap, the crew of Discovery has been given a go to press ahead for now with preparations for a possible return to Earth to the Kennedy Space Center at the upcoming opportunity. That opportunity would begin with an engine firing by Discovery at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and result in a touchdown in Florida at 5:43 a.m. Central Time. Discovery would fire its orbital maneuvering system engines for about 2 minutes and 43 seconds. As the spacecraft was above the central Indian Ocean, the engine firing would result in a decrease in speed for the shuttle of only about 187 miles per hour, but put Discovery on a course where it would encounter the effects of the atmosphere above the islands of French Polynesia in the South Pacific at an altitude of about 75 statute miles at about 5:10 a.m. Central Time. At that point, called entry interface, Discovery would have its nose angled up.
Go ahead, Eileen.
We have completed everything in the book except for the speakers and blocks 26 and 27, and we'll call those when they're complete.
Great. We appreciate that update, and hopefully that's the last time we'll use this book.
We concur.
Again, Discovery's crew pressing ahead with preparations for a potential return to Earth to the Kennedy Space Center, with an opportunity that would begin with an engine firing at 4:37 a.m. Central Time and result in a touchdown of Discovery at 5:42 a.m. Central. Discovery's course toward Florida would take it across the Pacific coast of Mexico above Puerto Vallarta. It would travel above northern Mexico, pass almost directly above Brownsville, Texas, and then fly out across the Gulf of Mexico, offshore of the U.S. Gulf Coast, across the Florida coast north of Tampa, and travel almost directly over Orlando en route to the Kennedy Space Center. The current preferred runway for a landing by Discovery on this opportunity is runway 15 at the Kennedy Space Center Shuttle landing facility. Discovery would perform a left overhead 294-degree turn to align with the runway on its final approach. During this descent from orbit, Discovery may be visible as it crosses above the Gulf of Mexico, offshore from the U.S. Gulf Coast for the length of the U.S. Gulf Coast from Brownsville to Florida. That beginning around 5:25 a.m. Central Time and continuing through about 5:35 a.m. Central Time. For residents in the Houston area, it would have a predicted max elevation above the horizon of about 10 degrees, looking to the south, reaching that maximum elevation about 5:27 a.m. Central. The next decision point upcoming for Discovery and Mission Control will be a go, no-go decision to proceed with the engine firing to begin Discovery's descent from orbit. That go, no-go decision expected about 20 minutes before the engine firing takes place, around 4:17 a.m. Central Time.
Houston, Discovery's ready for the gimbal check when you are.
And we are ready for the gimbal check.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Discovery, pre-start complete, 3 gray talkbacks.
Copy, thanks.
As preparations aboard Discovery continue toward potential engine firing in a little under 40 minutes from now to begin a descent to Florida, Entry Flight Director Leroy Kane gathering inputs and refinements to the forecast for a potential landing by Discovery. Again, the concern, as it has been throughout the evening, the potential for rain showers and thunderstorms developing within 30 nautical miles of the landing site.
Houston, Discovery APU pre-start complete. 3 gray talkbacks.
Copy, thanks, Vegas.
That call from pilot Jim Kelly aboard Discovery that he's made preparations for starting one of the auxiliary power units. One of those is started prior to the engine firing that begins Discovery's descent from orbit. Discovery has 3 auxiliary power units. They're generators that supply power to the hydraulic systems on board the shuttle. The hydraulics are used to operate the aero surfaces, the wing elevons and rudder, as well as the main landing gear brakes and nose wheel steering of the spacecraft. Here in Mission Control, refinements to the weather forecast for potential landing by Discovery at the Kennedy Space Center this morning being gathered, in preparation for a final decision on whether or not Discovery will proceed with this potential landing opportunity.